Hi, welcome. My name is Steve Wheeler. Today's session is going to be on survey management and how to use the survey management tool within OneCommute. So, today's agenda, we are going to be covering what is survey management, some tricks, techniques, creating the surveys, cloning surveys, creating the survey information, the look, the feel, the links, adding questions, creating the reporting, and even then how do we send those surveys out and formatting our email, whether it's coming from the OneCommute application or you just want to send a formatted email in Outlook. All right, so first off, OneCommute commuter management. So if you see it going across the board, yes, we have applications for outreach teams, commuter management for commuter communities, and logging and commuter reward system. And then we also have a little bit we're going to be talking about the marketing automation as it relates to surveys. And then certainly we're going to be talking about reporting within this survey management. But as you see, it is one component of multiple for commuter management applications. So with that, so commuter surveys. So we optimize those surveys to be mobile delivered, meaning we believe that most folks taking the survey will be taking it on some sort of mobile device. So we have optimized it for that device. You can pick and choose how you want it to look and feel. It can also, certainly any device out there can take the survey. We're also going to talk about how do we really go through and think about. And so we're going to suggest, we've got a couple of different surveys we're going to review today, but really think hard about the questions. And we're suggesting what is the minimal amount of questions to get the maximum amount of information that we are looking to report on. The other thing is we want to be able to collect information to be able to market to these commuters. No longer is just taking a survey going to be acceptable for measurement. We also need to be taking a look at how do we look at these commuters that we now have a chance to send them information about marketing programs, about commuter programs that they may have never known or existed. So take the time to design, make sure every question that you're asking is necessary, make them brief as possible, including the question, including the answer. Speak their language. Stay away from things that is relevant to you, make it relevant to the general public. Avoid using grids or matrices. We certainly have that functionality. And I'd suggest to take a look at some methodologies on the psychology of answering surveys and being able to ask the questions that are being answered across industries and being able to take a look at that methodology. All right, we're also going to talk about the margin of error, meaning we can take a survey, commuter survey for an employer, and based off of a margin of error that is acceptable, maybe that's a 95% confidence rate is our base level. We can go from 95, 97, 92. Based off your confidence level, that we can apply that survey and we can come up with a number of survey respondents to apply to a company. And what that means is then we could predict by the number of respondents, the type of commutes that we get back, or the types of modes that we come back with, we can predict then generally that company's, how their employees are commuting to that company. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and log into the application. We provide multiple survey examples. We're going to go through a couple of them. And the concept is get your template down. Maybe you have 2 or 3 different types of surveys that you're going to be asking based off of the complexity of the company, but then reuse that survey over and over again to be able to clone and be able to send out to those folks. Okay, with that, let's go into the application. So first thing here, let's just talk about navigation inside of here. So we talked about the multiple applications. So you see we have outreach, shuttle van pull management, surveys, what we're going to be talking about today. A request tracking application that's somewhat like a ticketing system for work orders or Maybe it's commuter phone calls or commuters that are coming and ask us questions. We also use it to track any technology requests that you may have from the team here at OneCommute. So we use that application for multiple work order ticket systems. Certainly we're going to be into reports and dashboards as part of this, and as you see we have also the commuter communities and even map management. Let's go back into the surveys, and we're going to go into the first thing today is we're just going to take a look at a simple survey. If I wanted to create a new survey, we could go in and create a new one. And all we are to do that, we could say, let's create the survey for, I don't know, Pepsi. And we want to clone a survey for Pepsi, and we'll clone the simple survey. So where's my simple survey? Yep, we'll clone that one. We say Pepsi, and we clone that. Now we have just created the Pepsi survey. And it has the questions that we had already created from the simple survey. And that's as easy as it is to clone a survey. You need to make sure you do those first steps in order to clone it. Let's go into our example on the simple survey. So the first thing we see in here is the header information. We can rename that survey name. We can relate it to an account if we choose to. We don't have to. This could be generalized across all accounts. But if you relate it to account, then we're sending that survey out, and then all the respondents that we're getting back is reporting to that account. That gives us another detailed level of reporting, and we also know then the work location of those respondents, so we can start predicting what type of commuter do we have. Next question, or next thing is we can have the survey dates start and stop so that the survey will no longer have respondents from the start-stop dates if we want to do that. Survey notification, we could have the user that creates the survey. That's the important note. The user that creates the survey, if we turn the notification on every time a survey is responded to, the user will get pinged with, hey, we've just got another survey coming in. We can put the number of questions per page. So if we want to do a next page type survey, I'm going to change this to 4 per page, and that just says the number of surveys, questions that we have per page that we're asking for this particular customer, or how many we want on the page. Another thing is the report layout, and we're going to talk a little more detail. So the report layout is we can configure how we look at the answers to our questions in a layout, so we can change that up however we want by the template reports that we have created. I'm going to click save there. The next thing we're going to talk about is editing the survey. So when we can add a numerous amount of questions. So in our examples here, skip question. So this is called a skip vertical question. As you see in here, we have multiple different types of questions, and we keep on adding additional questions from a flexibility standpoint. Coming out very soon is a pick list type question that you can use as a scrolling pick list, as well as we go up to 255 character answer. We're going up to a 5,000 character limit answer. So you can have just about anything that you want to ask, and we check for the formatting based off of what we're asking inside of these different types of questions. Okay, so skip questions are used to, just as it says, it is where do you want it to jump based off of the answer. So we can create questions that format to jump ahead, to ask a different type of question based off of the response that we're getting. It's a great place to use when you get other, as you want to have them fill in the blank of something other. If they don't have another, it's going to go jump to the next question. That's a great example of how you would use other types of questions. So in this particular sample, we are just asking them, what is your primary mode of commute to work? We're not asking the day of the week. We're asking them what is their primary commute mode. We're asking them if they like it or not. And that's a very important question in this simple survey, because if it is something they don't like, we have a potential person we need to be talking to or sending information. We also put in a question in here: what's your main factor in deciding on how you commute? Could it be cost? Could it be convenience? Could it be comfort? Could it be I'd like to be able to work on my way there? Could it be I need a train? So we're asking, what is the main factor? Asking them, are they aware that there's benefits to be able to take advantage of, such as maybe a reduced pass? So we want to find out the basic information from this particular person to report on. We know then we can put together the graphs and come up with some conclusions. And then we're asking them, can we contact you? Sometimes we don't even ask that question, but employers like to keep emails private. But we're asking, saying, hey, if you're interested, we can send you more information on our commute mode alternatives rather than driving at home if you allow us. And so we're only collecting first name, last name, email address. And then we've also added Google Places in here. Google Places is a great thing that will automatically fill in the address information. So then once we capture some of that information, we can then start predicting what type of a commuter that we have. We're going to add one more question in here because we'd like to know if they give us that information. We're going to add a question that says, I'd like to ask the question, if you didn't drive alone, what? We're going to put in a single select question. We'll say vertical. We'll say, if you chose an alternative commute, what would be your preferred? Let's make it even shorter. Preferred choice to driving alone. Preferred alternate choice. Driving alone. So we could put in there all those choices: bike, bus, carpool, drive alone. Oh, we don't want to put that one. Ferry, scooter. We don't want that one. Let's say shuttle, carpool, van pool, walk. So we're going to put there the question, and this tells us that if we are calculating their distance, it's also tell us this is the one we ought to take a look at marketing to. So it pops the question last. We want to actually put that question next to last. So we put that question right after 13 and we save the order. And we've just added a question into our survey. And we're asking that question, what is the preferred alternate choice to driving alone? And that's as easy as it is to creating a question. Okay, next thing is, and it gives you some idea on how you ask those questions. So next thing is formatting. So you can put the whatever header information that you would like to put in here. The thank you text after you complete the survey, which you'd like at the bottom of your survey. And then after your survey is completed, you can also add in a redirect. Maybe that goes to your website, and maybe that goes to a form you'd like them to fill out. Maybe you would even like to skip the thank you and go right to the redirect. So it gives you the ability to format the page. Okay, so next up is the survey template. And this is getting your color patterns. So you can have your color look, feel. It can come pre-formatted. It can come in. But you're able to then also change fonts, the look and feel of the survey, all kinds of different ways that you want to personalize that survey you're sending out. Okay, so now we can send out the preview and share. And there are really 3 different types that we have available to share today. There's a classic, The original one you see, and we show it has a format that is made for laptops, PCs. We also have a next page that is for mobile and optimized for mobile, but it also has, we set up the number of questions per page. We had set it up as 4, so it gives us how many questions that we want on each page. Or we have the single, which is the mobile and optimized as well, where we have a single question. Both of the next page and the mobile are great options to use. And all we have to do then to send that out is we copy this link here and we add that as a link inside of our email. And for you, this is a developer environment, but for you, it's going to show your site name. And so it looks relevant coming from your TMA organization. You'll also see we can also print the survey. So we have a print survey button here. All you click that and it's coming out as the survey. So you could send out a manual paper option. If your online survey is different than maybe what your print option is, so you could go and clone this and just create something that is a print survey format. And that certainly is an option as well, to just clone it on how you just want a print type survey. Okay, let's get back to our application here. And where were we at? Okay. So the next thing we are able to do, so we can go and even take the question. So in the preview or print, you could even just click through the link. You can take it and practice inside of here as well. So inside of here, you can go through all your questions to check to see answering the survey. So it'll take you all the way through the survey so you can see what it looks like in a preview mode. So we talked a little bit earlier about the reports. You can also see the reports about your individual survey. And so we are formatting, how many responses we're getting on each of these answers. This is, we got to go reformat to be the response, but it's showing different answers of how many responses that we are getting for each of these records for that survey that we are putting together. It is meant to go and see what are my answers. We can also have dashboards that we set up, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that is really the formatting of the survey on how you can look at the information about the survey. So next up, we also have, let's go in and take a look at a complex survey. So there's a complex survey. You could have many questions that you're asking, and even have any of that skip functionality in here. This is just an example of a complex survey that you're asking a lot of information about, and so this comes as a template you can use about, maybe this is a base, but this could be even for questions for employers. So you can we have many of these different types of templates for you to be able to use as your starter to create your surveys. Okay, next up, let's go back to our PowerPoint. So we've covered creating the templates. We have covered on building the survey information, collecting the fields down here, what is going to populate those fields, the different types of questions that we have to be able to add into our survey. You know what? We need to go back and review the Google Places, because that thing is a really good thing to take a look at, just so you can see it. Let's go through that simple survey, and we'll go through the Google Places because it's something that's worthwhile to talk about. And so let's go through and answer. We're going to say train, next question. Do you like your commute? I'm going to say yes. Next question. Comfort, next question. Yes. Next question. And we had the multi-select. Next question. Can you? Yes. Next question. And so I said that I'm going to ask additional information. I'll say Steve and Wheeler. Next question. Default my email. So this is the Google Places, and that is something very, you start typing address, so we're getting very accurate. The place has to exist. So where my home is and where my work address is. So it gives you the as accurate location as possible to be able to then start predicting the types of commutes that you can start setting them as very detailed or a good close estimate of what, let's see, I want shuttle and love my job and submit survey. So we've just gone through a simple survey. I think we could even shorten that up, but it would be short if we answered no and they don't allow to collect the profile information. It would be 6 questions. So you see the example of Google Places that you can incorporate into your survey. Okay, next questions. We went through the look and feel, the colors, the fonts, the margins. We're going to start going into the next thing is talking about the standards. So as before, we created some standard reports. Certainly you can go and customize that to be able to whatever look and feel that you want. So that is kept into, we can create these base templates. So the reports template, we just picked out what reports do we want to see. We wanted to see question 1, 4, 5, and 6. And it's showing up 1, 4, 5, and 6. Those are the questions that we wanted the answers to see from a reporting perspective on but you can then configure what are those reports that you want to see. Just like in the reports here, we had defaulted in here the question 1, and it's a default of how do we want to see the format of that report. And that's how we set up the defaults for seeing the different types of reports. Next thing is dashboards. We have a standard dashboard in here for surveys. So if we take a look at we want to see all folders, let's see, all dashboards. Let's take a look at survey. So there's a survey report in here. So we can take a look at some of the things in here. We can see the number of surveys taken. Let's see, refresh. Let's go ahead and refresh this. So we can see the information of what surveys were taken, the overall program, how many surveys were completed, even answers to some of the questions that we can take a look at. What's the start time if we are collecting that data. So we can see an overall look of a dashboard of surveys. We can also make a dashboard that's about individual surveys. So everything's kept in one place, and the cool thing about this and the good idea about this, we can then start comparing year to year in our survey information and creating reports from year to year of changes that are happening in here. The next thing that we can turn on as well is creating a survey information database. So what that means is every time we're answering a survey, we're collecting survey info. Certainly we get all the question responses, but we're creating survey info that is really starting to feed into all of the information of a commuter profile. So let's look at the commuter profile, and this is really how we start marketing to individuals. So we get the survey data, and we're going to use Vishel survey as an example. And the Vishel survey, and this is all made up data, so it's not anybody that's in here. We can start then collecting information about someone And we can then start predicting based off of we collected their origin address, their destination address, and we can start predicting what kind of a commuter. This preferred commute choice was public transportation. Does Vishel match that type of commute mode? Should we start marketing? There's a bus stop within 0.46. There's a metro rail stop within 0.75. So there is a great match for Vishel to be metro because of that distance. And they fit within the, we could be even matching a bike profile. They would score high on the bike profile points. So now we can apply algorithms based off of when we know where their start address is, where their end address is. We can understand what did they prefer and start a marketing campaign that's tailored for that commuter. So we're not sending out blind emails to everyone now that we have information on that says, hey, bike to work when they live 20 miles away. Or we don't want to send information about our bus system if they live more than a mile away from a bus stop. That gives us that ability then to really target market, tailor the message, make it personal, and make it about what's important to our commuters. Something completely different. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to capture from our survey data, is being able to then create these survey scores to start predicting how we should be interacting with that commuter. Okay, standards. So let's go to standards and talk about, so the survey standard, we talked about the reporting. Also, we can set up the standard for colors. So if you want to set up whatever your default color and fonts are for every survey, we can set that up for every survey to be your color patterns as well. Okay, next up, I think we've covered printing, we've covered the look, feel. We can map that to a survey information, and we can also update the commuter profile. And we talked about that. We can add those templates to each of our reports and dashboards. Okay, next up is email templates. So let's go and talk about, we can even send everything out. So you're all in one system. Some folks will create a email that is in Outlook. You can certainly do that. So let's take a look at an example of one that we have inside of here. We have an email template that is set up. You can use as your sample. You can create your own. We can take a look at that email template. All right. So here's an example of an outreach survey email template. So as you see, there is a HTML version. You can put your header. You can insert the name of the person you're sending to if you want to do that. We may not know their names, so it may be you're sending it from the organization. You could put if it's for a specific employer, you could drop that in there and personalize that. Then all we're doing is taking the link of the survey, and we are updating that link right here, and then when they're clicking into that, they're taking the survey. So you can send it directly from here to all of your contacts in here, or you're sending it to your employer transportation coordinator, and they could email it out to all their employees. You could have this as a general survey on your website, collect data on, maybe there's a general survey you're asking people to fill out all the time year round, so you can continuously collect commuter data as well as collecting contact information to put into your marketing program. Pretty broad and expansive use to now start thinking about how you are able to market to commuters that you hadn't marketed to in the past. Okay, next up is questions. So because this is a recorded session, you can certainly send any information out to our support at OneCommute.com, and we can get back to you. Thank you for your time, and that concludes our training on survey management.